I want to be clear in how I characterize this. This is mostly a protest. It is not, generally speaking, unruly, but fires have been started.
Mayhem in Beverly Hills as looters storm the luxury clothing store Alexander McQueen and make off with thousands of dollars worth of goods.
When conflict breaks, and it will not be like the movies. There will be no army, no police, and no National Guard to protect you. You will be on your own. If you are like everyone else and have not prepared for this day, you'll have 72 hours to find what you need before it's all gone. But remember, it will be you and everybody else. Right before the 72-hour timer starts, you will notice that garbage is piling up in some streets. Shelves in the stores are not being restocked and lines are starting to form in the gas stations. No one is sure what will spark the next civil war, but everyone can feel it coming. The crisis may start on the border. It may start when we are imprisoned in our homes again, or even because of another violent riot. But what you should know is that all the ingredients for conflict are brewing in America right now. When hell breaks loose, it will be a race for territorial control. That means the streets of your neighborhood and the buildings with the best sniper positions, warehouses with small doors and no windows. In that moment, there will be a rift in society and you will be forced to pick a side. This is the story of how the coming civil war will unfold in your neighborhood and who will protect you.
There's some kind of misunderstanding here. What? Well, you're American, okay?
Okay. What kind of American are you?
Citizens of America.
The so-called Western forces of Texas and California
have suffered a very great defeat.
3 things will determine the winner of this conflict: the ability to use weapons and sustain long periods of fighting, access to food and water, and the ability to control territory and coordinate the fighting forces. The thing that most people don't realize is which kind of American has the best chance to acquire, coordinate, and protect these elements. Ever since we were conditioned to outsource our problems to 911, citizens became lazy, especially in the big cities, where we don't even need to get out of our homes to get food. If you live in a big city, your view of the world is completely distorted. The food you eat, the energy that allows you to charge your iPhone, and even the military men who go fight wars to keep you safe, all come from these red areas on the map. They are the ones that control food production, that drive the trucks that deliver to Whole Foods and operate the power grid. In an instant, they will be able to cut off power and stop deliveries to the blue areas, forcing a surrender. The people who live in the blue areas have supported defunding the police, incentivized drug use, and voted for people who are soft on crime. These criminals will be part of this conflict, and they couldn't care less about you. They know full well what kind of person can and cannot protect themselves. They will be the ones you'll have to face in the initial 72 hours, and the ones you'll have to fight in the coming days. If you can't fight them, you will have to rely on someone else. Contrary to what you have been told by CNN, the patriots understand that mankind is flawed and should always strive to be better. They want to be left alone to work, take care of their families, and worship. The anointed socialists think that they know better, and because of their degrees, they can tell everyone else what they should do. This is the fundamental cause of polarization in America. 2 kinds of Americans are living in the same landmass. One is proud of their ancestry, with the understanding that the individual is the smallest minority, and the other is ashamed, looking to use the power of the state to impose their will on everybody else. However, when the war breaks, your ideology won't matter, because it will be a fight for supplies and combat supremacy. Criminals have several advantages over you. They are already organized in gangs, and they are familiar with the alleys and most of the infrastructure you never even see. Very quickly, they will create holdouts and ambush zones in these locations. But criminals are lazy. They don't grow food, and they are undisciplined. They operate under power structures that are fragile. They lack planning skills, and once their supplies start running low, they will make mistakes, and internal conflict will fracture them. However, they are still a dangerous and volatile enemy you'll have to face. In your neighborhood, the best chance to keep a semblance of order will be to create a militia. Again, unlike what CNN has told you, the concept of militias dates back to colonial times when local militias played a crucial role in the defense of their communities. The constitutional right to form militias is outlined in the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution, which states, "A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." The smearing of militias has everything to do with the anointed socialists who want to wield the power of the state over you. Militias are not a formal organization like a government or military, but rather a group of individuals who voluntarily join together for collective defense. It's quite probable that there are military veterans residing in your local area, possibly affiliated with churches or veteran organizations like the Legion. They could serve as the initial leaders of the militia, recruiting members and delegating responsibilities for securing access to resources like food and water, as well as coordinating defensive efforts. The day-to-day we are used to will be totally disrupted, and you'll be forced to re-educate how you do things. The simple act of driving will become extremely dangerous because the roving gangs will know you have fuel. You will likely want to move in with other families and form smaller groups to prevent your home from becoming a target because you are alone. Online banking, credit cards, and checks will become useless. Hospitals will be early points of conflict because of all their supplies. Soon they will either be overflowing with the wounded from the fighting or will be attacked by the gangs. Either way, taking control of a hospital and having doctors in the militia are critical for the control of the neighborhood. The dynamics of conflict would vary significantly between dense urban environments and rural areas. In the big cities, the proximity of buildings and infrastructure would necessitate a more tactical and close-quarters approach to combat. Guerrilla tactics, ambushes, and street fighting would likely dominate, with a focus on controlling key intersections, buildings, and transportation routes. In rural areas, the terrain would offer more opportunities for concealment, evasion, and mobility. Militias operating in rural regions might employ strategies such as hit-and-run attacks, raids on supply lines, and defensive fortifications in remote areas. The vast expanses of the countryside could make it challenging for centralized authorities to exert control, potentially leading to a more decentralized and fragmented conflict. In a widespread conflict, there won't be a centralized command overseeing your neighborhood. As much as the federal and state governments scramble to organize the military, several factions will emerge in your local area, and the lines between allies and enemies will be blurred. The big cities on the east and west coasts will be the focal point of military operations, and also the most likely to see bloody conflict. The sheer number of people living in the same place fighting for limited resources will cause everyone to turn on each other, and it will be made especially more violent because of the millions of illegal aliens that have entered the country since President Biden took office.
A lot of people coming in from Uzbekistan, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria.
Is there a fair bit of gang affiliation among...
Always.
Opposite to what you have been told, more than 3 million military-aged males from all over the planet have entered illegally into the United States. If they formed a state, it would be the 17th largest in the country. Most of these men come from failed states and ideologies opposite to those found in America. Many come from war-torn countries and most likely have fought in some kind of conflict. They are currently at the very bottom of society, having nothing and living at the margins, using scraps the federal and state governments give them. This situation is only going to get worse because during the pandemic, the federal government printed 80% of all the dollars ever printed. This is unprecedented in history and will have consequences. Unlike what you are told by the media, there is a massive financial recession coming, likely in 2024. When this happens, the people at the bottom, young men, fathers, and all who feel left behind for whatever reason, will be the ones to take action. It does not matter if this happens in America, Mexico, or Turkey. Human nature works the same anywhere. And when a civil war breaks, disenfranchised young men are the ones most prone to violence. Why then are so many people feeling left behind? It's because they can't afford anything anymore. Housing prices are the highest in history. Inflation is eating up earnings because of all the money printing. People are seeing friends and family dying of overdose. access to decent health care at a reasonable price doesn't exist. All sides feel elections are rigged in some way, and everybody is taxed to death. Apart from the anointed socialists who are on TV and the rich men living north of Richmond, the common American who wants to be left alone is reminded every day that they are racist bigots who should have no voice in society. There truly is a difference in the kinds of Americans living in the country. Some are patriots who believe in the fundamentals of natural rights freely given by God, which no other man has the right to take. And some believe they must mold society to their whim and use the power of the state to infringe on everyone's God-given rights. There is no media company, Hollywood celebrity, or NBA player that can convince hardworking people that any of that is a good idea. Because they live in a fishbowl and believe their worldview, they can't even comprehend how people can be opposed to their expert opinion. There is no compassion or the will to have a conversation. Only control will do, and that is what is driving everyone closer to conflict. Unfortunately, the fight for power cannot be dissuaded, and perhaps only a massive disruption will be able to reset the morality compass of the country. With the looming specter of civil war, Americans should understand that their shortcomings are caused by a very small group of people who hold all the power and fabricate narratives to control their actions. The anointed socialists control the advertisements you see, the media, the universities, the medical apparatus, and the military-industrial complex. Hell, they even want to control the type of car you can buy. There will be no change until the day that hardworking people come together and raise their voices against the soft tyranny currently in place. Only by coming together and embracing our collective responsibilities can we hope to weather the storm and emerge stronger on the other side. The fate of our nation hangs in the balance, and it's up to every one of us to rise to the challenge and shape the course of history.